Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Upper Tier SmackDown Hotel, where we're going to check in and we're going to talk about SmackDown, what went down, and we'll also talk about the Elimination Chamber. My name is Brent, as anybody knows who's been tuning in. Normally, I'd have Emma here, but Emma can't make it today. She's stuck in a bit of traffic. She was absolutely raging. She 100% wanted to be here, but she could not make it today. So what we'll do is we'll fly through SmackDown. I've got my notes here. We'll talk a little bit about Elimination Chamber. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody that later on tonight, we are doing a watch along for Elimination Chamber. Now, somebody asked in the chat today, was I excited about Elimination Chamber, or were we all excited about Elimination Chamber? I have to be honest, I'm not at all excited about Elimination Chamber. At this stage, I'm more excited about who that dude is playing Jim Carrey in the French Awards, because that was not Jim Carrey on the red carpet that day. But look, you never know. Sometimes these cards, they look lackluster, they don't look the best, and then bam, out of the blue, there you have it. It's a phenomenal show. Like say the example that comes to mind is WrestleMania 22. I remember going into WrestleMania 22. This was years ago, obviously. Showing my age now, but I remember going into WrestleMania 22 and thinking this is not going to be very good, and it blew me away. In saying that, I have very, 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 very little confidence in WWE at the moment. Anybody that's been watching the show, even stuff I've been defending for months, it's just indefensible at this stage. And look, we'll go through some of that as we talk about SmackDown. There's just some things that I don't understand WWE creative. I don't. There was a segment on SmackDown where they were talking about ESPN, and they had a few tag teams involved. And I'm like, SmackDown is a 3-hour show. Surely there is time to introduce some kind of a structure to just even bring back the tag team division and have the tag team division just have the tag team division back and creatively good again. But it's just a shit show at the moment. And look, we'll touch on it. So look, let's get into it. SmackDown opened, and this was released on social media before it all opened. Jey Uso got attacked, and as a result has been taken out of the Elimination Chamber. Now, this is a welcome twist for anybody who watches the shows knows that this is a welcome twist for a few people on the pod on Pro Wrestling Weekly that we do on Tuesdays. A lot of people out there did not want to see Jey Uso playing it back in the chamber. I didn't mind. Personally, I was looking forward to him doing it just so I could watch the reaction of the other lads and lassies on Pro Wrestling Weekly. But look, he's been taken out, and obviously on SmackDown there was a replacement, which we will go into. But that's how SmackDown opened up, and then Drew McIntyre doing some really, really phenomenal work, comes up through the crowd and cuts a bit of a promo. And look, my biggest takeaway from this segment was what it was. Everybody was out there. Everybody had their little say. But my biggest takeaway was the Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes bit towards the end. The Randy Orton, like, it was almost like a warning shot. He was like, I could have had you there. And they're definitely doing something there. They have to be, unless WWE does what WWE does and even messes that up. But the Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton story writes itself. It writes itself. It's one of these stories that look like they have legacy. Obviously, Ted DiBiase can't come back and do anything for that feud. He has his legal troubles, which I don't know enough about to comment on. But it's funny. I had a lot of faith in that guy, actually. But look, that story writes itself, and I don't know what's going to happen. My pick for the Elimination Chamber is actually Cody Rhodes anyway. I do think Cody Rhodes is going to win, and I'm not sure how that plays out. I do know that when Cody wins tonight, I will be a very, very happy bunny on the upper tier watch along. As we know, there's a couple of lads on the upper tier watch along tonight that is going to show up that aren't big fans of Cody Rhodes getting another push. But I'm here for it because, as everybody knows, I love Cody Rhodes. Before I go into it any further, the comments are just coming in there. So I'm just going to take a few comments. Baz, as always, absolute pleasure to see you, man. Thanks very much for tuning in. Anto, what's the crack, man? How are you? We were lucky. We were going to. Sorry, I'll start again. We were going lucky to get a full Cody Rhodes entrance last week, and there wasn't one this week. No. And what's SmackDown without a Cody Rhodes entrance? A quality entrance, I might say. Keith Series in. All right, Keith, man, what's the crack aside from the end of the SmackDown? I actually enjoyed this week's SmackDown. Really? I did not expect that because, Keith, I have to tell you, I wasn't an overly fan of this week's SmackDown. Jade Cargill just kept showing up in backstage segments. I think she showed up in like 4 of them. That woman should not be allowed to talk. She should have a mouthpiece, and she should have a mouthpiece, some kind of a manager. Because Jade Cargill, I just don't. I don't think she's very good. But the point is, look, we'll get into it. I don't think SmackDown was. I think it was better than Raw, but certainly not what it can be anyway. Dave, what's the crack, man? How's it going? And Layla, of course. How are you, Layla? Good to have you spot on. Anto, although I agree with the storyline, I'm sick of the Jay hate all of the time. Yeah, it's a bit that Jay hate is a bit much, and I'm not having it. And don't you worry, I'll have your back on this show, Anto. Love me a bit of I love me a bit of Jay Uso. Dave Kelly with an interesting prediction. I disagree. LA Knight to win. I don't know, Dave. Look, we'll be live on the watch along. Do join us. I actually think Cody's going to win. I think LA Knight wouldn't be a bad shout, and I wouldn't be opposed to Cody losing, actually, being a big Cody guy, because Cody has a story there with Randy. I know Randy's going to batter Aleister Black in the next few weeks, but Cody already has a story there, and I'm happy out with him just continuing on in that sense. But I think WWE booking the way it is, don't even get me started on that Poxy crate, which we'll touch on in a little bit. We don't even know what's going to be in it. Acers is in. When Drew McIntyre, Claymore, Cody Rhodes before Randy Orton wins the chamber match. I think you said that previously, Acer. I don't think Randy's winning. I don't know. Maybe Aleister, maybe there's some shenanigans there. I just don't think he's winning. Anto is agreeing with Keith. Wow, I think we're in Bizarro land here. What messing? Are you doing Acers in? Are you doing NXT Vengeance watch along next Saturday night? I don't know. To be honest, Acers, it wasn't in the plan to do a watch along. It was going to be more of a review show. But to keep, as always, and I know you will, keep an eye on the channel because that could change at any given moment. And Dave Kelly, LA Knight has to have a push. Randy will murder Aleister. Dave, LA Knight had to have a push last year. He had to have a push the year before. And the point is, at this stage, they're probably not going to pull the trigger, man. They're probably not going to do it. And Acers is saying Danhausen is in that box. I hope not. I hope not, Acers. This is setting Danhausen up for failure on the main roster. Not that he has a massive chance of just launching into the roster and being the #1 star. I think it just sets him up because you're going to get, in my opinion, you're going to get a lot of pissed off fans to see Danhausen because it's a build and it's a build and a build, and then bam, Danhausen. I don't know. I don't like this crate. I think it's ridiculous. And look, some people are saying it could be an object, not necessarily a person. It could be an object. And if it is an object, I seen a theory today, Acers, that basically said it could be another chamber, which is mad. Another chamber. And it makes sense. And a participant in that chamber. That would be a cool twist. They open the crate. It opens on the top of the ramp, and out comes somebody else out of a chamber. Referees are wide with they open it. I don't know. But if it is another chamber, who do you think is coming into it anyway? We will see. How are you, Sharon? Good to see you. I hope you're all good. Back in work today. Long old day for you. Who is the unmasked guy? Dave, I'll touch on that later on. We know who he is. And it kind of, in my opinion, indicates who the masked guy is being all along. It's not been him. But we will touch on that in a few minutes. LA Knight was finished after losing to Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. Yeah, I have to say. But look, the fans are still behind LA Knight, and never say never when it comes to this stuff. So, come here to me. We'll move on, and we'll touch on the comments now in a few minutes. Tiffany Stratton was interviewed by Kathy Kelly backstage then at the next. I won't do all the segments. I'll just do the segments that I thought kind of stuck out to me. Tiffany Stratton was interviewed by Kathy Kelly. Is it me? Is it me? Or has the Tiffany Stratton kind of hype train died down a little bit? And does she deserve it? I mean, has she lost some of her hype? Has she lost some of her aura, as the kids say these days? I don't know. I don't know. But there's something there and there's something missing. And look, it's down to WWE. Now, on to Solo Sikoa versus Uncle Howdy. Obviously, this was a match that uh, my esteemed, our esteemed host, the boss, Noel was looking forward to Uncle Howdy versus Solo Sikoa. The winner was Uncle Howdy, right? Now, anybody that follows the podcast knows that I was Johnny Wyatt's. I was pushing the Wyatts, and I'm all for them and all that. But I didn't like this. I did not like this. In 2026, there should not be a feud for a poxy lantern. I understand the lantern means something, and I understand it goes back to Bray Wyatt. But in 2026, it reminds me of the 90s, Undertaker and the urn and the possessing power. But that it suited the time back then. It's 2026. We're supposed to be in the reality era, and we're fighting all over a poxy lantern. And look, I think the fact that this feud is still going on is doing damage to both teams. It's gone on too long. This feud should have ended then. He should have got his bleeding lantern back and then decide what to do next. But I think all this has done is it's done damage to both teams. And I think it needs to stop, and it needs to stop soon. And both teams need to break up, by the way. That's how much damage that this feud has done. And the MFTs and the Wyatts, they need to break up and they need to go their separate ways because it's not being good at all. I'll take a couple of comments before I go any further because I seen something that Keith said. Scooby Doo and the gang are in the poxy crate. Yes, Keith. It's what I was thinking. And Noel said it. Noel said it last week. I was in the wrestling shop in Stephen's Green, third floor beside Asha, the upper tier HQ. And basically, we were talking about it, and Noel, and I thought it was hilarious. He's like, Poxy Scooby Doo stuff. That's what it is. Releasing a mask, and it's a bleeding gardener or something like that. And at this stage, and again, we'll get to the masked person and who it was. It has something to do with Seth Rollins. So you'll know what I'm talking about when we touch on it. Barbie gimmick is finished, says Acers. It might be. It just might be. I just found that it's kind of lost its aura a bit. Biggest load of garbage, MFTs versus the Wyatt Six. I completely agree. At this stage, they're just dragging their heels a little bit, and it's all to do with creative, completely. I don't blame the Wyatts for where the Wyatts are today. I blame creative. It's nothing to do with the Wyatts. That act could have been booked a lot better, much better stories. And the fact that they were booked the way they were is lackluster, tone deaf, not very good. And it's like somebody's booking for himself and only himself and not thinking about the audience. So look, like I said, I didn't like it. And I think this match was a good opportunity to end the feud. But of course, it's bleeding still going, isn't it? So look, the SmackDown GM Nick Aldis was backstage, and again, I won't go through them all because a lot of SmackDown was backstage segments, which I wasn't a fan of. And basically, they kind of Drew got walked out basically, but we all knew Drew was coming back, and we all knew what was going to happen. But the reason I bring up this segment is because I said it before on Pro Wrestling Weekly. I'm going to say it again. The vision needs to go at this stage. I'm saying everybody needs to break up, but the vision needs to go. And what I would have done with the vision and who's left with the vision was I would have had Logan Paul and Austin Theory, basically. I'm the leader. Now I'm the leader. Now I'm in charge, and have them break it up. No harm, no foul. Look, the vision didn't work. It wasn't going to work. It had a bad foundation. There was a lot of stop-start, and the vision didn't work. And I think sometimes in professional wrestling, what we need to do is we need to look at something and say, hey, this isn't working. Let's give it a logical ending, and let's just finish up, and then that's it. But I bring it up because the star of all of that was Logan Paul. And in my opinion, Logan Paul, whether people like him or don't like him, and a lot of people can't stand him, Logan Paul is a future massive WWE star as long as he stays. And come here, if his brother, Jake Paul, is in the crate, right? That's one of the rumors, right? A lot of people are saying, well, if Jake Paul is in the crate, I'm turning off. No, you're not. You're not turning off. You'll continue to watch it. And you'll watch it next week, and you'll comment on it, and you'll go online, and you'll be raging. And I probably, at one stage, I would have been too, but Jake Paul is just too good. He's too good, and not Jake Paul, Logan Paul even. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe we bring in Jake Paul and we'll see what happens. Another thing we're probably going to touch on, I'm not sure we're going to touch on Pro Wrestling Weekly, but I thought this was interesting. They highlighted Jelly Roll in the crowd. Jelly Roll has been enthralled in controversy this week because a video was released of him talking about trafficking, the big buzzword at the moment. Very like Epstein, which there's no place to talk about Epstein. And look, this is not a political podcast, and we're not going to get completely political. But surely, if WWE is doing all they can to further themselves away from the likes of, say, Vince McMahon, which is cool, on board with that, no problem. And even to a degree, I was going to say Donald Trump, but his need Triple H is me. I just think it's a bit weird them highlighting Jelly Roll and wanting that kind of publicity. Maybe that's why they did it. But maybe I probably would. Anybody who hasn't seen the Jelly Roll video, look it up. And he's talking, and it's a strange conversation. Look it up and let me know what you think about the whole Jelly Roll thing. Or we can talk about it on Pro Wrestling Weekly. We'll see. We'll take some comments. Just keep Wyatt on main event. Main event or AAA Acers. I mean, at this stage, unless they're going to repackage them, I have to say I agree. Either Seth Rollins or Bad Bunny costing Logan Paul the match tonight. My money is on Seth Rollins due to who was under the mask, Acers, and I have a feeling you know who that is. Reed will be much better on his own when the injury is better. Sharon, I couldn't agree more. A woman after my own heart. He was just coming on. Like, I gave Reed a bit of stick. This whole tribal thief thing didn't settle with me. I didn't like it. So I gave him a bit of stick. I was like, you know what? He's very mid. He's very mid-cardish. Not a big fan. But he's starting to come on, so let's see what happens. Anto's in. He's a prick. I assume you're talking about Jake Paul, but I just think if Jake Paul shows up, you never know. He might have the Logan Paul effect. Keith's in. If we get Seth Rollins back tonight, I think we'll get Seth versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania. And Keith, there is nothing wrong with that. Logan Paul is unbelievable. And of course, Seth Rollins would be the Chris Jericho or Shawn Michaels of our generation. So we will see. I mean, Logan Paul is a prick. Okay. Maybe, Anto, but he's just unbelievable. Jelly Roll was on TNA Wrestling 3 weeks ago. I didn't know that. I should have been paying more attention. But that video, Aces, only came out a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know what the crack is with it. It's a bit weird. Trump, Sharon's in. Trump is in the Hall of Fame, and actually I have no idea why he's even in there. The Hall of Fame is something that we need to talk about. We need to talk about the WWE Hall of Fame. It's not this whole celebrity wing thing, all of that stuff. It's not great. It's not really, like, I remember watching the Hall of Fame ceremonies in 04, 05, 06, and every year it was unbelievable. You'd watch the speeches. Noel went to a few of them. And the emotion, the speeches were unbelievable. I'll never forget Rowdy Roddy Piper's speech. It was incredible. He ended it with, like, my name is Rowdy Roddy Piper, and you ain't seen nothing yet. And he did his whole thing, which was brilliant. I love Piper. Piper was always one of my favorites. But that all aside, I think what we have now is, and it was kind of predicted back then, if they keep going the way they were going, we'd have a watered down Hall of Fame. And that's exactly what we do have. It's a bit watered down, but he's there because obviously they needed somebody, a celebrity, and he's a mate of McMahon, and obviously WrestleMania 23 here versus here. Hall of Fame, absolutely. Breaker will be unstoppable when he's back. And I spoke to somebody today who believes Breaker will not do any good when he comes back. He believes Breaker has no aura. He believes Breaker is very boring. He thinks that when you put Breaker on the main event, he's proven, like that match with CM Punk. My friend Owen said, I don't see it with Breaker, which I found interesting. As everybody knows, I'm a big Breaker guy. We already seen that match at WrestleMania 39. It's not like on WWE to do the same matches. Who the F said that? Because my friend Owen, he's a good guy, massive wrestling knowledge. I went to school with him years ago, and he ended up back at the house last night. I wasn't even out, by the way. I got woken up by him, and I hadn't seen him properly in a good few years. So it was good to see him. Anyway, this isn't the What's Up with Bren's Life podcast. This is the SmackDown Hotel. So let's get cracking. I just thought the Jelly Roll thing was interesting. Tiffany Stratton went up against Kairi Sane, and obviously Tiffany won here. Look, the result of this match was never in question, but I think this match, like, if it wasn't for Chelsea Green at the side, it was just a filler match, in my opinion, to make Tiffany look good. And not my opinion, I think that's actually factual. But either way, I thought Chelsea Green, she steals the show everywhere she goes. The quicker she heals, the better. And we've seen the comments from The Undertaker, and I keep calling him Doc Hendricks. I always remember this guy's name. What's his name? Michael Hayes. That's the one. He kind of backtracked on his comments. Didn't backtrack on them. He explained that Unreal showed a version of it, and they left out part of it that would have cleared everything up. But look, this was just all filler. But Chelsea Green stole the show as always. The Miz versus Obafemi. Isn't it an absolute travesty what they're doing with The Miz at the moment? Travesty. I've no doubt he doesn't mind doing what he's doing. In fact, The Miz is a great guy. I'm sure he's happy doing what he's doing, but he doesn't deserve to be fed to Obafemi. They have an NXT roster full of people fighting for the Poxy Speed title. One of the worst titles I've ever seen in my life. The Speed title needs to go. And what they could have done is they could have got kind of like rookies, not rookies, but they could have got people who hadn't had that much WWE exposure and put them up against Obafemi. I understand the value of it as well. Look, he's beating The Miz. He's beating somebody with value, but it's wrong. The Miz deserves better. I don't think he won a match last year, and he deserves much better. So, look, I was a little bit pissed off with how this went because I do think The Miz deserves better. And like that, there's a whole Speed tournament full of lads that could have filled in there. United States Open Challenge, and Mark Cardona, to a lot of people's delight, answered the challenge. This was good. It was what it was. Look, these matches are never bad, and it was what it was. It made me think about Cardona, though, and I wonder what he's thinking, and I wonder how he's feeling. I know he's Mr. Always Ready, but I wonder if he's still as positive, as enthusiastic about his future in the WWE and how that's going to shape up and how that's going to look. It also got me wondering about the US title scene, because we know there's something cooking between Dragunov and Carmelo at the moment. We know that. We can see that backstage. But I wonder if they'll have some kind of an invitational ladder match at WrestleMania for that. And basically anybody that's answered the open challenge can show up and do it, and then cap it at 6 or something like that, or some kind of a ladder match. The ticket sales to WrestleMania are not very good at the moment. We don't know much about it. I'm hoping tonight Elimination Chamber clears it all up, but we will see. I want to touch on the crater, that bleeding thing, that box thing that I like. What's going on? Like, if it is Danhausen, what the heck? Like, honestly, what the heck? I can't believe I said that. I drink lots of milk. What the heck? But the Danhausen thing, I hope it's not true. I like Danhausen. I really do. But I think this would be a bad start, and I would make a joke of one of the cliffhangers as to what's going on. There's been lots of hints dropped on Danhausen's social media, so we will see what happens. And look, what are they doing with Kit Wilson? This is where, if Emma was here, because Emma's a massive Kit Wilson fan, I'd be like, what are they going to do with Kit Wilson? Is Kit Wilson just going to be the guy in the background that calls everybody toxic, that gets squashed every now and again until, and hopefully his tag team partner comes back and recovers quickly? We will see. Yeah, I touched on the tag team division earlier on. So Aldous kind of said later on in the show that there's going to be a number one contenders fucking tag team thing next week, right? Because we had an ad for WWE PLEs on ESPN, which is a joke, by the way, as it is. Mental how they get away with it. But either way, SmackDown needs a better structure. And it needs, in my opinion, it needs a tag team division. It needs maybe a light heavyweight division. The US title division and the world title. They just need to, in my opinion, they need to structure it and have the little bits in between. Because at the moment, as we all know, WWE, in my opinion, is doing things week on week, possibly hour by hour. They're changing their minds. Everybody's scrambling. Everybody's all over the place as to what's going to happen for WrestleMania, the ticket sales, and everybody's wondering what's going on. WWE are lacking structure, and they're lacking foresight as to what's going to happen in the future. But that ESPN ad got me thinking about the tag teams, and I do think they deserve a lot better. Jordan Grace then went up against Candice LeRae. This whole Johnny G thing, I like Johnny G, right? I do think Ciampa was holding Johnny G down. I said it before and I'll say it again. Johnny G was always the better member of DIY, in my opinion. And Johnny G could do a whole lot better on that roster. Him coming out and lying on the table, like planking basically on the table. It's ridiculous. He gets up, he causes the distraction, and then Jordan Grace wins. Look, I wanted Jordan Grace to win, but they didn't have to be by distraction. It should have been a clean win. And we better find out why he's depressed soon, and it better be something good. And he better go on and do something with it as opposed to just ending up back on NXT. We're waiting for his contract to expire so DIY can then reunite on AEW where they water down WWE talent. There, I said it. I touched on this earlier on. Jade Cargill was in a lot of backstage segments, too many to mention. It's just piss poor. Some of it is just piss poor. I didn't like it at all. What I did like was Sami Zayn, Jacob Fatu, and Cody Rhodes. Their backstage segment was brilliant. I am invested in this Sami Zayn story. They have a couple of words. Fingers are pointed. Sami says to Jacob, "You're always there when controversy happens." Jacob goes a bit mad, and they do the whole Spider-Man thing where they're pointing fingers at each other, all that stuff. I'm invested in that story. I think we know where it's going. We know Sami's going to get a push soon enough, and to a few people's disdain, he's probably going to get the title out of all of this going mental. But I think, to me, this was probably the best backstage segment of the show. I love Cody, I love Sami, and I love Jacob, and what they did there was a bit magic. Now, shocker of the night. Was it a shocker? We have new tag team champions. We had Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky versus the Irresistible Forces, they're now called. Nia Jax and Lash Legend. And of course, this was a very good match. Probably one of my favorite matches. Maybe my favorite match on the show, madly enough. Ripley took the pin, fair enough. But we have new tag team champions, and it's the Irresistible Forces. Now, this leads me to believe, before I watched SmackDown, I was saying Tiffany Stratton's going to win the Elimination Chamber. I now think it's going to be Rhea Ripley. I'm not sure how you feel about that, Keith. I know you're still in the chat. I'm not sure. I know you were saying you don't want her anywhere near that scene, but I do think Rhea Ripley's going to win, and I'm okay with it. Rhea Ripley, she's got it all. She's brilliant. I don't know what everyone's problem is with her. Randy Orton. I'll touch on this backstage segment. This is the last backstage segment I'll touch on. Randy Orton and Aleister Black. Randy Orton's going to batter Aleister Black. I want Aleister Black to do well, but I just don't see it. I think he spent too much time away from WWE. I think he's a watered down version of what he is now. Joining him up with Selena wasn't great, in my opinion. And because when people see that, all they see, they just see stuff that's been done before. That's it. It's been done before. Scarlett, like Selena is just another Scarlett, basically, and it's not very good, actually. But look, we'll see what happens with this. I do think Randy Orton's going to batter him, though. And I do think he's going to be fed to him. I don't think it's going to be a meaningful feud. Now, I want to point out, listen, when I say all of this, I hope I'm wrong. I want Aleister Black to prove me wrong, but I just don't see it in him. He'll never, ever, in my opinion, surpass kind of like the middle of the table. And that's okay. That's all right. There's a place for everybody. He's just not my jam, to be honest with you. And I don't really see him going into the main event or doing anything spectacular. And again, I hope I'm wrong, because that roundhouse kick is unbelievable. So I do hope I'm wrong. Now, the Elimination Chamber qualifying match, the main event, the shit show that this was. Logan Paul versus Jacob Fatu. Look, this was a cool match, but it was overshone by the end, right? As Niall would say normally, and as Keith said in the chat, it was very Scooby-Doo. Now, the person under the mask was a dude called Don Furrow. I have to read from this. A student from Seth Rollins' Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. He also trained with Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall's Nightmare Factory. So to me, this is one of Seth's students. So this is a clear indicator to me, that this is Seth Rollins. Has to be. If it's one of his students, he's sending decoys out, it's got to be Seth Rollins. And I think they need to reveal that tonight, because if that masked man isn't revealed tonight, this laptop's getting drop kicked out the window. Not really. I need it for the Pro Wrestling Weekly and the rest of the shows, but you know what I mean. I'll just be pissed off if it doesn't happen. So look, I think it was a bit of a shit show. Drew came back after being walked out of the building, gave Jacob a bit of a smack in the head. Logan Paul took advantage, and Logan Paul is in the Elimination Chamber, which is his third Elimination Chamber in a row. Say what you want about Logan Paul, but he is lightning in the Elimination Chamber. That one where he was drawing horns on it and annoying Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens banging his head off the thing, that was brilliant. So look, let's see what happens. And maybe the crate has something to do with the main event or the masked guy. We're going to see it all, because inevitably, SmackDown was okay. It was okay. It wasn't great. It was consistent-ish. But inevitably, we have a couple of cliffhangers. Who attacked Jay? So if anybody would like to hazard a guess who attacked Jay, do let us know. If you don't let us know here, do let us know on the channel in general, or join us on Pro Wrestling Weekly or the watch along tonight. So who attacked Jay? Basically, who's in the crate? Who's in that poxy crate? Better not be Danhausen. And who's the masked man? And I think so far, a lot of people are saying actually Karrion Kross is in the box, maybe. What do you think of Karrion Kross being in the box? Everybody talking about it. He's doing an interview, and Paul Heyman texted him. He's like, he had that stupid grin on his face. I was like, come on, man, I'm rooting for you, but you've lost all kind of mystique and aura since you've left, because it's like, is it a shoe? Is it not a shoe? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't care. At this point, I don't care. But look, my biggest takeaways for SmackDown is the cliffhangers, and I want everything resolved tonight. I want the table set tonight for WrestleMania. I want it set. I want us to know what we're getting ourselves into. I don't want this any bollocksing around where it's like, well, we'll reveal it this week, or we'll reveal it in 2 weeks, like that poxy open challenge that Brock Lesnar's doing. So look, we'll see what happens tonight at Elimination Chamber. And like I said, I will touch on the details of the watch along. So that's what I thought of SmackDown. Look, it was okay. Very backstage segment heavy. Some of the backstage segments were brutal. Some of the people deserve more. So what we'll do is we'll take some comments, because there's been quite a few. So we have Keats in. Sharon, Trump hosted 2 early WrestleManias. He did. I'll be doing a video on WrestleMania 5, and there's a bit of deception about that, Keith, about Trump hosting the 5th WrestleMania. I'll touch on it in the short that I do, because we're covering all WrestleManias before WrestleMania, and they'll all be released on the channel. Pretty cool. Some of them might think, so a lot of them have been done, so they just need to be uploaded. Acer's known Triple H booking. He probably would have Seth Rollins and Bad Bunny or LA Knight versus Division at WrestleMania 42. Yeah, another new era, Acers, another new revolutionary way of thinking. A lot of bollocks, if you ask me. Can't stand The Miz. Who said that? Acers, I am shocked. I am shocked that you would say that about The Miz. Shocked. I think The Miz is one of the most consistent wrestlers in the locker room. I think some of his work is stellar. His promo with Daniel Bryan, he out-promoed John Cena and Roman Reigns in the one night when he was IC champ, when he had the B team with him. But he's done so much more since then, and he's a company guy. Maybe that's why you don't like him. They should create a US Open challenge and make it into a ladder match for WrestleMania. Keith, I said that earlier on. That's what I said earlier on. I said an open invitational ladder match at WrestleMania. And basically anybody that's challenged for it can come in for it, and they could cap it off at 6 or something like that by the time they get there, and so on. It wouldn't be a bad shout, but I did say that earlier on, so don't be going on like you just thought of that, Keith, because you didn't. Listen, Anto, feuds are flying. Randy versus Alistair, Jacob versus Drew, Cody versus Sammy. It's gonna be one. And the whole locker room versus Drew McIntyre. Great point. So it could be true as well. Although Cody, in my opinion, is winning the Elimination Chamber tonight, I don't necessarily think Cody alone will be facing Drew McIntyre. But we will see. Keith, is it not Y2J or Seth coming out of the crate? If it's not Y2J, it's going to be an absolute flop. Just my opinion. Yep, Keith, you're absolutely bang on. Acers, just send Wilson back to NXT or Evolve. I agree. It started off all right. Yes, Keith, ladder match, says Anto. Anto, it was my idea. I'm just saying, but we'll give it to Keith. Ace is 100%. He's absolute dirt. Calm down, Keith. Kit Williams is not absolute dirt. He's just, again, he's a victim of bad booking. He has something. He came up with all of his own stuff as well. And though I think another chamber and adding Rollins to EC would be a good spin. Yeah, imagine Rollins is added to it, and then Rollins wins the men's Elimination Chamber. Man, that would be pretty cool. Acers, Candice LeRae probably told Johnny Gargano that she's on her period, and that's why he's distressed. I don't know. Well, look, it wouldn't surprise me with WWE at this stage. Keith's in. I agree, Brent. I'm leaning towards Rhea winning it now after dropping the belts. We need a big women's star in the title scene. Ticket sales are low. Poor Miz, the creative team keep on giving them the bad stuff. Dave, I agree. And yes, sir, I do know you are a Miz guy, and I don't blame you. Who isn't? Jacob attacked, well, Acers isn't. Jacob attacked Jay. We'll see, Keith. We'll see. I don't think it's going to be cut and dry. We'll see. And though, if Logan wins the Elimination Chamber, I'm out. As bad as the prime drink is, that prime drink is poxy. I was driving through the country and I stopped at one of those mad country garages, right? And I seen a lot of these prime drinks. I seen all the flavors, and they were banging them out for €1 each. Tried them all. Brutal. Absolutely terrible. No offense, Logan. David's in. Tag team match: Jerry Roll versus Bad Bunny. With the other two guys. I don't know, David. I don't know. Let's see what happens with Jerry Roll after the information that came out about him last week. Dave loves those prime drinks, says Keith. So, come here to me, right? We're going to wrap up in a minute. Before we do, I have a slide to go through very quickly. It's an important slide. It's a good slide, and I think we're all going to love it. But before we do, I'm just going to remind you that we are doing a watch-along for Elimination Chamber. We should be on by about 20 to 12, quarter to 12 at the latest, right here on the upper tier. Do join us, because like I always say, good, bad, or indifferent, as Elimination Chamber may be, it's always the best crack when we're doing the watch-alongs and when we're watching it together, and that's what we're going to do. So, very quickly, the short went out earlier on, but I'll just remind us of the card for Elimination Chamber. Becky Lynch versus AJ for the Intercontinental title. I think we're getting a new IC champ. I don't know. I've been flopping back, but I think AJ Lee wins the belt. CM Punk versus Finn Balor. I'm sorry, Emma, but Balor, your boy, is not going to win. Well, your other boy is going to win, though, so it's a win-win for you. Tiffany Stratton versus, I won't go through the participants, but Rhea Ripley's winning the women's Elimination Chamber, in my opinion. And, of course, my boy, Cody Rhodes, is winning. So, before we finish up, I do want to share a slide with everybody. This is something that Niall's going to be looking after. This is for our football fans, because we cover football on the upper tier as well as wrestling, and I'll get back to the wrestling in a second. So this is for a great cause. It's Saturday, May 16th. Keddy's Heroes versus Premiership Legends. I've been to a couple of these games, and they're amazing. They're brilliant. A lot of big names do show up on the day. Some people not announced. My personal favorite there is Brian McClare. I absolutely cannot wait for this. I will be there on the day. Niall will be there on the day. And chances are a couple of other upper tier folks will be there on the day as well. This is a great cause. I think the tickets are on Eventbrite, but you can look it up. If you check the upper tier page or Hogan's Trophies. Actually, if you go onto Facebook and check Hogan's Trophies, I think they might have it as well. Either way, consider going to this, because it's going to be great crack. Even if you're not mad about football, like I wouldn't be Johnny Football. I used to be mad about it, but not so much these days. I'm buzzing for this game because I've been to these games and they're a great day out. And like I said, a great cause. Borough Legends, Keddy's Heroes versus Premiership Legends. Stradbroke Rugby Club, Saturday, May 16th. Be there. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. Right. We'll close out with a couple of comments. And then we'll finish up. I'm looking forward to the match along the watch along with the Royal Rumble. So good. Thanks, Anto. It's going to be a cracker of a night tonight. So get you our snacks, get you our drinks, get that Hulkamania beer from Florida, drink a few, and have a good time with us tonight, because we're gonna make it a good night. Acers is in. I only seen this before the show, Acers. John Morrison got his head shaved in Mexico last night. It looks mad. It was a bit of a double take. But yeah, somebody actually was saying to me that the other day that they really dropped the ball on John Morrison. And I was kind of wondering, was it them that dropped the ball on John Morrison, or was it John Morrison that dropped the ball on John Morrison? I guess that's another conversation for another day. Sharon, the watch-alongs are always great. Thanks, Sharon. I'm looking forward to having yourself and Anto on. I am in work tomorrow, so I'll stay awake for as long as I can. No pressure at all, Sharon. It's just lovely to have everybody on that's going to be on. So, in saying that, we will be live 11:45 tonight. The upper tier, the upper tier YouTube channel right here where you're watching. Shouldn't have had to advertise that. Myself, the panel, will all be in. We'll be ready for it. It's going to be a good show. 2 seconds. Layla says good night. She can't stay up. Layla, understood. Good night and God bless, Layla. Catch the repeats tomorrow. It'll probably be just as good as the live show. Acer's brother Love dropped the ball on John Morrison. I think we should maybe talk about it one of the days, and maybe I'll bring it up at Pro Wrestling Weekly one of the weeks. So I'll be back in a couple of hours with the panel for the watch along for Elimination Chamber right here on the upper tier. As always, subscribe to the channel. There's shorts every day. We've got a good few WrestleMania shorts coming up. Noel is Johnny shorts. He drops shorts like there's no tomorrow. And of course, the football shows on a Monday, football shows on a Thursday. And we have the SmackDown show obviously now, and Pro Wrestling Weekly this Tuesday as well. So do subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video. And as always, this is a pleasure. I'll be back here obviously later on. I'm back for Pro Wrestling Weekly, but next week we should have a full house again. This has been deadly. Thanks everybody for commenting. It was lovely to speak to everybody. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you all tonight. If not tonight, then on the next stream. But I'll see you, whoever's on tonight, on the upper tier. I keep saying upper tier. I'll see you all tonight on the watch along. Do join us, Elimination Chamber watch along. I'll talk to you all then. Anybody who's not coming on, good night, God bless. See you all later. All the best.